Hey there, folks. I'm Mark, in affiliation with Spectrum Pulse, and it's Billboard Breakdown. I don't remember. So when I predicted the second posthumous album bomb here last week, I did not predict it would be like this, because not only was Juice WRLD's album bomb for Legends Never Die bigger than that of Pop Smoke, it also hit a lot higher on the Hot 100, which means that not only will I wind up talking about a fair few more songs from that project, but it also triggered the sort of chart impact and collapse for a lot of songs for which they might not actually recover properly. In other words, next week this could become very, very interesting, if not altogether good, depending on what actually manages to come back. But unlike Pop Smoke, this also had some major implications on our top 10. Well, okay, not the number 1. Rockstar by DaBaby featuring Roddy Ricch. Look, it is still a very solid lock here, despite getting unseated on the streaming and the sales charts, basically thanks to solid YouTube and a really consistently good radio run that it's going through right now. And this is where the Juice WRLD conversation actually starts immediately, because all of his songs that hit the top 10, they got here basically on streaming and occasionally a smattering of YouTube, with only Come and Go at number 2, with Marshmello really having a lot of the sales to shove it any higher, and honestly this might have the radio promo at some point. Now this boosted right past What's Poppin' by Jack Harlow featuring DaBaby, Tory Lanez, and Lil Wayne at number 3, which is pretty consistently strong, but still does lag on the radio to make up that next big step. Whereas Blinding Lights by The Weeknd fell back to number 4 because, let's be honest at this point, the radio and sales, they're finally on the downswing. This might actually be out of the top 10 in the next month or so. Then we got another Juice WRLD song here with Wishing Well at number 5. Same deal as before. And then Savage by Megan Thee Stallion featuring Beyonce at number 6. I gotta admit, I'm a little bit disappointed that this song isn't gonna make that one last push, but it is losing across the board at this point. It looks like it's gonna be on its way out relatively soon. Then we got another Juice WRLD song at Conversations at number 7. Again, same deal as previously, just a little bit less. And then we got Roses, I'm in Beck remix by St. John coming in at number 8, which I gotta say might be slowing in some of its gains, but it is still pretty robust across the board, at least for now. And then to round things out, we've got 2 more Juice WRLD songs. Yes, that is 5 in the top 10. First with Life's a Mess with Halsey that debuted last week, it comes up to number 9. And at number 10, Hate the Other Side with Marshmello, Polo G, and Kid LAROI. Again, it's tough to evaluate how much any of this is actually going to stick around. I've seen this before. I don't suspect they will, but the album bombs that hit closer to the top of the charts, they do tend to have a little bit more staying power. Look at the Carter 5 or Scorpion from back in 2018. Speaking of which, our losers and dropouts. And yeah, I gotta say it, this is where things get ugly, because in the latter category, there were more than a few losses. No, I'm not happy that Pussy Fairy by Jhené Aiko was forced off the Hot 100, but frankly, it was allowed to overstay its run for too long as it is. But along the way, the album bomb also took out more stuff like Dior by Pop Smoke, High Fashion by Mustard and Roddy Ricch. Now both these, they have their year-end spots on lock anyway, but then you've got After a Few by Travis Denning, Yo Pero Sola by Bad Bunny, then Flex by Polo G and Juice WRLD, and In Between by Scotty McCreery. But the bigger story here really is our losers. And congrats! Another full third of the charts took hits this week. Joy for me. Now, most of these are a little bit more predictable, most notably the debuts from Pop Smoke last week that took some major hits. 44 Bulldog went to 99, Aim for the Moon with Quavo went down to 89, Gangstas is at 83, Mood Swings with Lil TJ's at 79, Something Special's at 75, Got It On Me at 59, I really hope this rebounds, The Woo with 50 Cent and Roddy Ricch is at 48, and For the Night with Lil Baby and Da Baby is at 32. Then we got the consistent losers holding over from last week. Gooba by 6ix9ine at 100. Hell, Trolls with him and Nicki Minaj fell off the charts entirely, which is kind of a little bit amazing. Then Three-Headed Goat by Lil Durk, Lil Baby, and Polo G at 97. Here and Now by Kenny Chesney at 96. The Scots by Kid Cudi and Travis Scott at 69. Stuck With You by Ariana Grande and Justin Bieber at 66. Be Kind by Marshmello and Halsey at 62. And Tootsie Slide by Drake is at 54. Now, the other losses, they are mostly other bigger hits that might rebound, or they might find themselves forced off the charts for good, just pushed into that downstream. So, starting from the bottom up, Walk 'Em Down by NLE Choppa and Roddy Ricch is at 58. Die From a Broken Heart by Maddie and Tay went down to 53. Chasing You by Morgan Wallen fell down to 49. Sunday Best by Surfaces is at 45. This can leave any time, just saying. Bluebird by Miranda Lambert's at 44. And The Bigger Picture by Lil Baby is at 43. Then we had The Box by Roddy Ricch at 41. Life Is Good by Future featuring Drake at 39. Yes, this is still around. Then Hard to Forget by Sam Hunt is at 37. Yes, this is also still around. Then we have The Bones by Maren Morris at 36. One Margarita by Luke Bryan actually took a bit of a hit to 31. Rain on Me by Ariana Grande and Lady Gaga's at 28. Don't Start Now by Dua Lipa's at 27. We Paid by Lil Baby and 42 Doug at 26. And Intentions by Justin Bieber featuring Quavo finally out of the top 10 at 21. Now, as I've said before, given that we are in an album bomb situation, you would think that any big gains or returns, they'd be directly tied to all of that. And while it might be true for the majority of our returns for Righteous and Tell Me You Love Me by Juice WRLD, the latter featuring Trippie Redd, of course, back at 15 and 38 respectively, along with Past Life by Trevor Daniel and Selena Gomez, that's at 90 because apparently this is going to make a radio run now. Our gains, unfortunately, tell a bit of a different story. I mean, I already mentioned Life's a Mess by Juice WRLD and Halsey, but we also saw more pickups here. I mean, in country, we had Lovin' On You by Luke Combs up to 87, and One Big Country Song by Low Cash at 60. As if I couldn't get even more of a splitting migraine. And then we got Rags to Riches by Rod Wave, which is continuing to surge off TikTok up to 52. Then we had Party Girl by Stay Solid Rocky up to 25, in the run-up to an album that I guarantee the majority of you didn't even know was coming in the next week or so. And, as I expected, Savage Love by Josh685 and Jason Derulo will crack the top 20 at 19. Oh, I just know some folks are going to be exceptionally irritated, if not livid, that this is now a hit, but thankfully I'm still not sick of it just yet, so I'm fine by it. But as we are now in an album bomb situation, here are the songs that fell below the top 40 and didn't otherwise qualify for me as the best or the worst of the week, and primarily from Juice WRLD and the album Legends Never Die. Man of the Year at 51. I mean, that rap rock sound had some promise, even if the lyrics really made me wince. Then we had Can't Die at 50. I Want It at 47, Screw Juice at 46, and Up, Up and Away at 42. Yeah, that's all. The rest of the album bomb is actually in the top 40. But with all of that, our new arrivals, which is actually going to start with number 91, Tapin by Saweetie.
Tap, tap, tap in. Diamonds dancing on your neck, nigga, tap in. Tap, tap, tap in.
Alright, I had said this before, and I'm going to say it again. I thought My Type was fine for the sort of basic kiss-off that it was, and Saweetie, she had enough personality to actually carry it after a rather nostalgic sample. But what I didn't know is that she could actually deliver a follow-up, and discovering that a certain Kemosabe-affiliated abuser tied to Doja Cat stepped up to produce this further diminished any enthusiasm I might have had going in, and that might be apt, because you can really tell that Saweetie is trying very hard to replicate Megan Thee Stallion's swagger and content opposite another obvious sample, this time from Too Short, and just not quite matching up in the same way. Yeah, the bassy gurgle royal might make this apt for your average strip club, but without much in the way of melody beyond some of the whistles and Saweetie's very brash energy, I can still say this isn't all that impressive or even all that memorable. So, yeah. Next, number 86, My Affection by Summer Walker and Partynextdoor.
But I can't change my affection. And I get changed by attention.
Oh look, one of my least favorite acts of the current wave of R&B dropped an EP, and she got the next 2 entries on the Hot 100 here. The first with Partynextdoor. And you know what? I have to give them some credit for some of the absolute worst and sloppiest vocal mixing I've heard in an R&B song in a while. Partynextdoor sounds flat and buzzy. Summer Walker once again uses way too much auto-tune, and the pickups, they clash in a really jarring way when they're juxtaposed against each other and they're trying to harmonize, especially when you have to tack on a really underweight trap beat and a lot of muted keys behind it, sliding along some of the back of the mix, which really only picked up some cooler synth embellishments coming in by the outro. I mean, the one thing I can kind of give some credit to is the content, where Summer Walker will highlight a lot of her come up and how after getting shunned before by this guy, now he wants her. And then Partynextdoor comes around to highlight some of her hypocrisy for blowing him off by playing that other man and highlighting how he himself has come up. But as a whole, I don't know, the tune and the content, they are not good or interesting enough to get over such woeful production. So yeah, let's move on to number 84, Let It Go by Summer Walker.
Let it go, cause you doing too much and you just let go. And I know it's you and you tryna hold on to my attention.
Okay, a song like this is why I highlight Summer Walker's weaknesses as a singer. When your primary instrumental is a pretty warm guitar pickup and slightly more textured percussion, at least until that fizzy tap and keyboard embellishment comes in, a more obviously synthetic vocal timbre with all the auto-tune can clash rather awkwardly. Hell, it's Kalani's problem all over again, and at least Kalani projects more presence consistently and doesn't stick primarily in her lower register where she doesn't sound that good, and at least Summer Walker's delivery and articulation feeling very mushy and mumbly, which doesn't really help the thematic arc of the song, where she's trying to quit a bad relationship and get over all those toxic emotional ties that are holding her back once she has now found something real. I mean, a song like this should feel at least a bit more decisive, for lack of better terms. I'll say this, at least the instrumental is a bit better, but it still doesn't have much of a hook, so, nah. Can't recommend this either. Number 73, Be Like That by Kane Brown, Swae Lee, and Khalid.
I wish I never met your ass. Sometimes it be like that, but...
Okay, this is not quite as weird or bad as it might seem initially. Yes, Kane Brown is a mainstream country act, but he's worked with Khalid in the past on remixes, and Swae Lee isn't too far afield of all of that, and this was primarily a pitch to pop radio, because apparently somebody learned their lesson, so I was intrigued how this would turn out, and honestly, from that point of view, this is not bad. I mean, the guitar rollick and the hook isn't bad at all, and even if I feel like the trap groove is kinda lightweight, it's got enough foundation in the low end for Khalid to sound more on point than he has in some time. He can actually ride this groove. And he and Kane Brown's harmonies are actually pretty decent. Hell, you cut off Swae Lee's verse altogether, which really feels half-hearted, kind of also out of place in some of the brighter mood, and a lot of its beat switch into even thinner percussion, and hell, I'll say it, you could have a really solid pop song here. Hell, the content might even work better too. They got both these guys sounding like they're really looking for all the excuses in the world to dump this girl, but can't quite move themselves to do it because they're still angsty and they want someone in the night, and there's a certain grudging camaraderie and the low-key vibe that kind of works. So yeah, it's not a great song by any means, but it is just catchy enough that I can see this sticking around on certain parts of pop radio, but it's not bad though. If you're curious, check it out. Number 35, Fighting Demons by Juice WRLD.
See another day. I said my demons are breaking out of the cage. On my knees, I pray for better days.
So we've got 9 Juice WRLD songs to get through here, and here's the truth. Going through most of these, there's a formula to what you're going to expect when it comes to a lot of the self-destructive drug abuse that you would expect from Juice WRLD, along with the occasional flex and relationship drama. Now, to his credit, at least in terms of a lot of the subject matter and framing, this project is a fair bit closer to what I actually tolerated on Goodbye and Good Riddance back from 2018. Unfortunately, for a song with such a promising title, this is a real dud. And given that these songs were finalized posthumously, I have to blame that management for letting through lines like, "Money gives me an erection, but that don't mean it's gonna be everlasting." I mean, I almost don't need to add anything more to that the bass beat will swamp out the entire mix, and the trap elements sound really cheap. And even if there's a decent melody, the writing still feels caught in the weird zone of trying to flex, but also show angst. It just falls painfully flat. So yeah, no surprise, it ain't good. Next, number 34, Stay High by Juice WRLD.
Too low in my life, gotta stay high, gotta stay high. Too low in my life, yeah, I gotta stay.
Okay, the reason this charted as high as it did, it's the sharper trap groove that's blended a little bit better against the hazy blur of melody, and this has a solid hook as Juice WRLD's bars are a little bit sharper on the verses. I mean, the problem is that the second verse can't possibly match the faster intensity of the first, which shows a lot of the difference between actually having some hunger and satiating satisfaction. The latter of which, I gotta say, doesn't quite connect as well compared to the hook, where he's trying to stay high to avoid some darker thoughts. Still, I will say, it's a little bit better. Not quite as good as Tove Lo's song of this name, but still. Number 22, The Adventures of Moon Man and Slim Shady by Kid Cudi and Eminem.
Attitude mixed with the pure raw. The night game, your girl call. She like, do me baby down to get busy.
Okay, what? No, seriously, what is this collaboration? I get that these two might have more parallels than you might think. They both operate in their own little world with fandoms that can be excruciatingly annoying, but a collaboration like this, it does not seem to make any sense whatsoever. And yet I'll also say it kind of works. I'm not going to say this is altogether great. It feels like it is missing a proper crescendo to come from either artist in order to ramp their bars up into more of a climactic moment, really drive this home. And the song doesn't really have much of in the way of a hook, especially with all the hazy strings and sandy percussion that imply a lot of menace, but not much in the way of real payoff. And that is also kind of the case with both artists, who are going so low-key with their delivery and stringing together all those punchlines that they come after each other. It feels almost oppressive in a lot of its sound, that it's not really so much of an adventure so much as knuckling under and finding out however they can really survive, with Kid Cudi then referencing his recovery from serious depression, to Eminem referencing the pandemic and police brutality, where it doesn't actually feel corny, to his credit. Now granted, both artists, they do have their fair share of questionable punchlines here, but you know what, they also go by at such a clip that the only thing that kind of bothers me here is a lot of M's usage of ad-libs. It feels kind of forced. I know it's a concession to the time, but it's one that still feels a little bit awkward for him to truly work. But as a whole, you know what, for me this is okay. It's not bad, just not great either. That's all. Number 16, Bad Energy by Juice WRLD. We're back to Juice WRLD with blocky percussion against the faint guitar touches for the melody, a weirdly petulant inflection that he has on that first verse, and a decent little bit of multi-tracking and the hook where you can tell that he's trying to purge himself of all those bad memories and thoughts so he can heal himself through all of his bars. And yeah, you know what, the rampant drug abuse, we'll come back to this, it likely doesn't help, but at least by the end of the song, there are some decent arranged elements that give this a little bit of swell and a good conclusion. I mean, it's not altogether memorable outside of that hook, but you know what? it's passable, I guess. I'll take it. Number 14, Titanic by Juice WRLD.
Titanic. There's a lot going on in my head right now, but I manage.
I'm honestly a little bit surprised why this is one of the Juice WRLD songs that I liked a fair bit from the album. And I think some of it comes down to the consistent mood. The faint gurgles of melody that build into the rounded trap groove that feels competently mastered for once. Juice WRLD staying primarily in a sour minor key in his self-destruction, but not in a way that feels diffuse or thrown off by the outright flexes. Yeah, he's managing, he's acknowledging his blessings, but I gotta say it, there is something to the atmosphere of knowing that it's all gonna fall apart around you anyway, that the mood kinda nails really well. Now, I'm not gonna say it's particularly great, again, but combined with a pretty solid groove here, yeah, I don't mind this. Good stuff. Check it out. Number 12, Blood on My Jeans by Juice WRLD.
If you feel on my dick, there's a gun. Not right there, just a little above.
See, this is the sort of half-formed Juice WRLD song I was worried about. Half because it feels like all the ad-libs and mixing was cribbed from Lil Uzi Vert on his last couple projects. Half because on the song all about abusing even more drugs and shooting people, he opens up with a dick joke that, I gotta say, it kinda kills any sense of atmosphere, even if it is tied circumspectly to the gunplay. And the verse is all flexing and clinginess to a girl. In other words, the same sort of incoherence that made Juice WRLD such a frustrating artist for me in the first place. Now, I would say that the production had a bit of promise with some of that frail acoustic guitar, but then it gets crushed again by the grainy trap pickup, and the song just does not have all that much in the same type of melody or tune. In other words, no, this ain't good. Next, number 10, Hate the Other Side by Juice WRLD and Marshmello featuring Polo G and Kid LAROI.
Got your mans in his backwood, put it in the sky. I was taught to love my brothers and I hate the other side. Hate the other side. Hate the other side.
So there are actually 2 Marshmello collaborations with Juice WRLD on this album, with this being the first, and I'll be blunt, this shouldn't be here. It barely even feels like a Juice WRLD song, and I would have excluded it if only because he just has the hook. It feels like a favor that's being thrown to Polo G to get the placement on an album that's gonna sell like gangbusters, or especially for Kid LAROI, Juice WRLD's protege, with whom I'm still thoroughly unimpressed. More frustratingly, it's everyone on a gunplay song, which, yeah, Polo G can lend some pathos and some emotionality, and Kid LAROI goes back to internal angst and it doesn't fit with anything. It's not helped at all by the production here either, where Juice WRLD's vocals sound so compressed, thanks Marshmello, and the trap beat feels really overstated, with the bass flooding the mix, especially opposite some of those guitars. In other words, I mean, you gotta thank Polo G for saving it, but it's not good either. Next, number 7, Conversations by Juice WRLD.
I'm not really up for conversations. I can have my cake and eat it too. I just gotta make a reservation.
This is one of those tunes where I question where the hell Juice WRLD's vocals were placed over this production, with that prominent beeping synth melody and the terribly mixed trap beat. It's synthetic and it's clunky in a way that would never flatter a lot of his delivery. And the vocals, they just sound awkward stacked against this, even before a lot of the incoherent brand names. And how, of course, he's apparently running out of patience as he's dealing with the devil, as he's trying to stave off more of those darker emotions and dark thoughts with a lot of drugs and, again, the brand names. Apparently, this song's been actually around for a while, and the producer's been fighting like hell for the past year to get this released, amidst all the leaks that it's had. I mean, I'm not sure why anyone would go to bat for this, because it ain't good. Just saying. Number 5, Wishing Well by Juice WRLD.
Touch my pain with my wishes in a wishing well. Still no luck, but oh well. I still try even though I know I'm gon' fail.
See, this is a song that reflects a lot more of where Juice WRLD's artistic tendencies were going, and actually shows a bit of promise here, with that guitar rollick and the piano line giving it a little bit more momentum behind all the trap beat and the snaps. Yes, I will say it, the content is still very stale and all the angst and the drug abuse, especially after going through so many of these songs at detail, especially with the pitch shifting that's dropped in the second verse, but The hook's at least good, but it's also one of those songs where a lot of the references to pills, they're so prevalent that I have to ask why Juice WRLD's handlers assembling this album in post, why they leaned on them so much, especially given his passing. I mean, it's not the worst thing in bad taste I've heard done on a posthumous album in the past 2 to 3 years, and I do think the song otherwise is fine, but it is jarring to say the least. At least on this. And finally, number 2, Come and Go by Juice WRLD and Marshmello.
I don't wanna ruin this one. This type of love don't always come and go.
Let me not mince words. This might be Juice WRLD's best hook. And even if the mix has some of that over-compressed edge coming courtesy of Marshmello, where of course he had to slam one of his drops in, and it's as melodically bankrupt as they always are, that guitar line actually has some raw punch to it that I honestly wish Juice WRLD had used a lot more often instead of dropping all those melodies behind swamped out trap textures. Hell, I'll say it, it's my biggest consistent indictment against so much of modern mainstream emo rap that will pull more from punk and emo. Bring the texture and edge along. If you go rap rock, more often than not, I bet it would work, and I bet the fans would like it too. And I'll say it, the content helps here too. Juice WRLD is once again miserable, but he's clinging on to his relationship as something that actively makes him better. Where even amidst all the drugs he and his girl are gonna take, they're gonna keep on fighting. And honestly, that is a potent note to end things off. And if there's gonna be a song this week that actually sticks around from this project, yeah, I'm happy this is the biggest one, and I hope this one sticks. So yeah, this week actually felt weirdly easier to assemble than I was expecting. Mostly because it wasn't really that bad, again? I mean, Come and Go by Juice WRLD and Marshmello will easily take the best, with Titanic as the honorable mention, but for the worst, yeah, Juice WRLD's gonna get both of these here too. I have to go with Blood on My Jeans as the worst of the week, with Fighting Demons as the dishonorable mention. Just neither of them came together. Next week though, the fallout from all this, so stay tuned for that. But until then, I'm Mark, you're watching Billboard Breakdown, affiliated with Spectrum Pulse, and I'll